In the Buddha's time, Tissa, the son of a wealthy family, came to the bamboo grove to hear the Buddha teach the blessed Dhamma and wanted to ordain. However, his parents refused to give permission. Following the famous example of Ratapala Thera, Tissa refused food for 7 days. After Tissa's parents saw Tissa's resolve, they reluctantly gave their permission. Tissa then ordained as a bhikkhu. After ordaining, Tissa, who was used to a life of luxury, undertook the 13 Dhutanga practices in order to quell his passions. One of the practices was going for alms from house to house, omitting none. This way, a monk did not allow himself to pick and choose which houses he preferred. His desires would not affect his alms in any way. Owing to this, Tissa was known as the Elder Tissa, the direct alms the lesser. He became a bright and shining example of a good bhikkhu for others to follow. One day, while some festivities were going on in Rajagaha, the parents of Tissa Thera missed him very much. They also felt sorry for their son, who was missing all the enjoyment, and they wept. As they were weeping, a slave girl came to them and asked them what the matter was. Upon hearing about their son, the slave girl said, "What kind of food did your son like? If you give me money and resources, I'll bring your son back." "You shall have all you need to bring us back our son." And so, the girl rode away in a palanquin to Savatthi. She took up residence in the street where the elder Tissa used to frequent for alms. She watched for the moment the elder entered the street, and at once bestowed upon him delectable alms. After some time, she realized that she had hooked him in the bonds of the cravings of taste. At first, she offered alms on the street, but over time, she eventually got the monk to seat himself in the house to receive alms. She kept offering him choice foods to keep him under her power. One day, at the proper time for alms, the elder Tissa came to the door of her house and found that she wasn't there waiting. The servants informed him that she was ill and wished for him to visit her inside her room. In his mind, the elder Tissa knew that something was fishy, and his moral compass's alarm went off. However, he had become so accustomed to the craving of taste that he ignored the warning and entered her room. There, the slave girl was able to seduce him and make him forsake his vows of celibacy. Afterwards, Tissa knew that he was no longer a bhikkhu, having committed parajika. Bhikkhus are required to follow the Bhikkhu Vinaya, or vows of training. There are many levels and categories to the Vinaya, and breaking any of them is considered an offense. The highest and most serious offense is called parajika. The act of parajika results in immediate expulsion from the bhikkhu order. Even if no one knows a bhikkhu committed parajika, he is no longer a bhikkhu. If he continues to wear the saffron robes, he does so as an impostor and incurs great negative karma each moment he continues to delude the public. There are 4 parajika: sexual intercourse, stealing, killing a person, arranging for an assassin, inciting a person to die, or describing the advantages of death. Lying about one's level of insight or spiritual attainment. After this, the slave girl brought Disa home to Rajagaha. Soon after, news of this incident spread like wildfire, and sitting in the Hall of Truth, the community of Bhikkhus discussed this amongst themselves. When the great master came into the hall, he asked them what they were talking about, and they told him, "Monks, this is not the first time that he has fallen to her power in bondage to the craving of taste. In the past, he too fell to her power in a similar manner." Upon the request of the Bhikkhus, the Buddha told this story of the past. A long time ago, when Brahmadatta was reigning in Benares, he employed a gardener named Sanchaya. One day, a wild antelope entered the king's garden. At first, the antelope would flee at the sight of Sanchaya. But after several visits, in which Sanchaya did not pay it any attention, the antelope began to feel safe and wandered closer. "Sanchaya, have you noticed anything strange in the garden recently?" "Yes, my lord. I've noticed a wild antelope has been entering the garden." "Do you think you could catch it for me?" "Yes, my lord. If I had some honey, I think I could bring it to your majesty's palace." "Then do so." The gardener began by putting honey on the grass around the area that the antelope liked to eat, and hid himself. When the antelope came and tasted the honeyed grass, he quickly became addicted to it. It felt like everything else melted away from his mind, and all he could think about was eating the honey. For a few moments, he even forgot to fear for his life. The gardener watched the antelope from his hiding spot. The antelope began by dashing in and carefully eating the honeyed grass. Then he would frightfully dash away. Then, after some time, he would come back again. Over time, the gardener began to show himself, and the antelope became accustomed to him. The gardener gradually got closer and closer to the antelope, and the antelope no longer felt frightened and did not run away. Eventually, the antelope began eating right out of the gardener's hands. Then, after securing the antelope's trust, the gardener went to prepare the honey and grass. He placed the gourd over his shoulder and strapped the grass to his waist. The gardener then went back to the antelope and began dropping small clumps of grass and pouring honey on them while walking towards the palace. The antelope, obsessed with eating the honeyed grass, followed the gardener without a care in the world. The gardener kept guiding the antelope towards the palace, inside the palace gates, and finally, inside the palace walls. Once they were in the throne room, the soldiers suddenly shut the door, trapping the antelope inside. The antelope suddenly realized the danger and began running around wildly, looking for a way out. The king watched the whole thing and said, "Is this the timid antelope? The same animal that would not revisit a spot even if it smelled or saw a man in the vicinity? Is this the same animal that if it was so frightened, would never return to an area for its whole life. Yet look at him! He was so seduced by the taste of honey that this wild animal followed Sanchaya right into the palace. Truly, my friends, there is nothing more vile than the lust for flavor. Look at this wild animal as an example. Through lust and desire, we forget even our own safety. Let this pitiful creature go. He is just an animal. He cannot control himself. Once the doors were opened, the antelope frantically ran back to the forest. In those days, Sanchaya was the slave girl that tried to tempt the monk Disa. The antelope was Disa, and the king of Benares was I. What did you learn from this story? Let us know in the comments. We hope you enjoyed the video. Click like if you did, and click subscribe if you want to see our uploads. And consider making a donation to support our Buddhist animation project.